Coming up next on the Blitz, your Dallas Cowboys report there is no calm after the draft day storm. Jason Witten steals the headlines here at the Star this week, but we are breaking down the newcomers' potential impact on this team. The Blitz starts now. It's a new month and definitely a new look here at the Star. Welcome to the Blitz, your Dallas Cowboys report. Bill Jones along with Mickey Spagnola as the Cowboys are getting set to welcome the rookies to the Star this coming week. We've got OTAs coming up later in the month, but of course, as you know, the big story this past week, Jason Witten's time with the Cowboys comes to an end. Mickey, this generation's Mr. Cowboy. With all due respect to Bob Lilly, Jason Witten earned that title, I think, the last 15 years.
Oh, absolutely. You just think of everything he's done. He played as many years with the Cowboys of anybody in the Cowboys organization. You know, Bill, it all reminds me of his first mini camp when he was a rookie. And when Bill Parcells, the Cowboys, drafted him, I think Bill had a vision for, as he would say, the player, right? And his vision was Mark Bavaro, because Bill had him when he was with the Giants. And I remember him going downfield, crossing the middle, catching a pass on the run. And he didn't really celebrate, but Bill goes, "Oh, there's my pass-catching tight end. Like, I'm going to make you a full-time tight end, a complete tight end. You're going to learn to block for me." And boy, did he ever. He was a consummate tight end, as old-fashioned tight ends went.
Yep, and of course came into the league at the age of 20, third-round draft pick out of Tennessee at that age, and it was in his rookie season. He had the broken jaw, missed the one game, and then 235 straight starts after that.
And that's amazing. You know, when you think about all the things that Jason has done with the Cowboys, all the records that he's set with receptions, yards, the fact that he only missed one game this entire time. And everybody's memory, and it's etched out here at the Star in a picture bigger than life, right? Running downfield without the helmet on after he caught a pass. And those are the things that come to mind when I think of Jason Witten.
That is certainly the iconic image of Jason Witten's career. But what do you think his legacy is? Not only playing the game, but off the field and just what he meant in the locker room.
Yeah, and let's remember, he did win an NFL Man of the Year award. So you think about that, all the things he's done in the community, you know, just coming out as a junior from the University of Tennessee to what he turned into. I mean, Bill Jones is calling him Mr. Cowboy, so that tells you exactly how far he's come.
He's this generation's Mr. Cowboy. Bob Lilly is the all-time Mr. Cowboy still. We could go on and on talking about Jason Witten over the course of the next half hour, but when we come back here on the Blitz, your Dallas Cowboys report, let's take a look at those top draft picks who are making their way to Frisco this coming week.
The Dallas Cowboys Blitz is brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world. The law offices of Domingo Garcia, the lawyer that works for justice. And by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. For the ultimate Dallas Cowboys experience, tour the Star in Frisco, where the Cowboys train and work. For more information, visit thestarinfrisco.com/tours. This segment is brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Just sitting there for 19 picks, waiting to hear my name called, and just sitting there watching my phone, and Ron's like, "They'll be calling you in a little bit, maybe, like, just relax." And I'm sitting there just having a heart attack. And Dallas, Texas pops up on my phone, no caller ID, just Dallas, Texas, and I was like, I had to take a second to breathe and realize that it was actually happening.
Leighton Vander Esch, the Cowboys' first-round draft pick, and for all those draft picks, finally the waiting is over. As we welcome you back here to the Blitz, your Dallas Cowboys report. Nick Eatman now joins us now as we break down the top 3 rounds worth of picks for the Cowboys last week. And of course, that starts with Vander Esch in the first round, the linebacker from Boise State, Connor Williams out of Texas, and Coppell High School in the second round, and Michael Gallup, the wide receiver from Colorado State, in the third round. What's your take on those top 3?
To me, they drafted for need, and there's really nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is a team that has some glaring holes after free agency. They didn't always fill it, and you know, when you look at guard, you look at wide receiver, and of course, if you look at linebacker, they just said these are the guys that need to come in here and help this team. And Vander Esch, you know, that they feel like does that better than any other position, obviously, because you know the depth at linebacker after him wasn't so great. So to me, I just looked at it that they had needs to fill, and they went and they did it, and they took best available need is pretty much what I would qualify that as.
Did you think they were going to go someplace else maybe in that first round?
You know, I thought so. I thought maybe they could trade up if they liked the safety that was falling. As it turns out, they didn't as much as they liked Vander Esch. I just think we've seen this so many times before that the depth at another position helps you make a pick here. I think that they picked Taco last year knowing that they had more depth in the secondary, and they would address that later on. Same with receiver and offensive line. They could address it later on. Let's get the linebacker now.
Yeah, I think at that point in the first round, that's who they had targeted, right. And that's why they didn't trade up a few spots for somebody else or even think about trading back. They like Vander Esch. You hear Will McClay talk about him, and he liked him from the end of the season on. Second round, Connor Williams. It was really fortunate on their part because so many people thought that Connor Williams might even be a first-round draft pick.
Yeah, to me, what I love the most about it, and I guess anybody that can throw a lineman down and then just kind of lay on him. I like that nastiness there. But I think that Lyle Collins to me is a tackle, and I think that now he's going to be able to play tackle. This move solidifies that. Let's see how Connor Williams plays inside. I think he's going to be really good in there. Playing next to Travis and Tyron Smith is going to be good for anybody. And so I think that it's a really good, solid pick there. I think they had options to take other people. They had options maybe to trade. But I think that at the end of the day, let's keep solidifying the best thing we do, and that's block and really run the football. And Connor Williams will allow him to do it.
You know, and the other trickle-down effect on that is now if Lale stays there, Connor's good at guard. Now you've got a swing backup tackle that you didn't have last year with Cameron Fleming.
I think that right there was a really good way that they kind of covered themselves. I think his contract is set up to the point if he does start, he makes more. If not, he's a great swing tackle. And so anytime you got a guy that started in a Super Bowl who could be your swing tackle, I think that's great. And they let it be known that Atlanta game affected a lot of things they did. They're not letting that happen again where they have an injury and they're going to be in trouble.
Now, I thought it was very important to get an offensive lineman in the first 2 rounds of that draft. And then you got your wide receiver in the third round.
Yeah, I mean, a guy that they saw in the Senior Bowl a little bit. He's a veteran college player. He's played a lot of years, but he's a big, strong guy. You know, I don't think he wows you with really anything, but just really solid. And I think he runs routes pretty well for this stage in his career. I think that's something this team has been lacking, and it's something that's, you talk about being Dak-friendly, quarterback-friendly, whatever. A guy that can run routes is friendly to any quarterback.
All right, Nick Eatman, we appreciate it. As usual, we've got more of this draft class to break down, including an edge rusher and a quarterback.
This segment was brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Hey, Mike, Jerry Jones. No, I really am, really. Hey, Mike.
How's it going, Mr. Jones?
Hey, man, I'm doing fine, and years have been burning. We've been going over you here, but we're fixing to put your card in and make you a Dallas Cowboy.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Mike White, the quarterback from Western Kentucky, becomes a Dallas Cowboy last Saturday. Welcome back to the Blitz, your Dallas Cowboys report. Bill Jones along with Mickey Spagnola inside the Academy Sports and Outdoor Studios here at the Star in Frisco as we break down what happened in the later rounds, the Saturday picks last week. And let's start with the edge rusher, Dorrance Armstrong out of the University of Kansas, as you take a look at all the picks from Saturday. But Dorrance Armstrong is a guy that they really like.
Oh, really liked him, Bill. As a matter of fact, and don't let the fact that he played at Kansas, you know, he kind of flew under the radar, right?
That's spoken like a true Missouri Tiger.
But they liked him so much, they were trying to trade back into the third round to take him at the end of the third round. So that tells you what they thought of a speed pass rusher. And again, one of those positions, the Cowboys are still trying to settle there, so you can never have enough of those guys.
That's exactly right. I had 10 sacks a couple of years ago for Kansas, which is saying a lot because they're playing behind in a lot of games as well. How about the quarterback, Mike White? A lot of people thought that the Cowboys needed to take a quarterback and continue to establish that position, and they think they found a good one.
Well, they certainly needed another arm. They only had 2 on the team. So here's a guy that I think a lot of people thought would have gone sooner. I was talking to some of the Cowboys scouts after the draft, and they said, hey, this guy can really spin it. You know, Cooper Rush better buckle his chin strap and get ready for some competition once they get to training camp for that backup quarterback spot.
You know, we talked earlier about Michael Gallup, the third-round wide receiver out of Colorado State, but Cedric Wilson, another wide receiver out of Boise State, a late-round selection.
And see, and a lot of people said, well, the Cowboys have been drafting for need. Well, they already had their wide receiver, so here's a guy I think they thought a lot of, and it's like, okay, value pick here this late in the draft. Why not bring in another young wide receiver?
And then in the 7th round, I thought it was an intriguing pick, Bo Scarborough, who was a workhorse at times for Alabama. This guy, and when you look at his measurables, his broad jump, you know, 4.5 speed at the combine, big guy, and he's available still in the 7th round. And they needed another running back too.
And an all-purpose running back. I think this is a guy that, you know, you could probably hand the ball to 20 times.
Right there on the goal line.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a big banger. So I think, you know, who knows? He might be a fullback starter kit depending on how much he grows or how much weight he puts on. But here's a guy that I think he better get ready, Bill, for training camp because they'll probably wear him out in those preseason games.
Well, yeah, because Zeke's not going to carry the ball much in the preseason.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now don't let Bo Scarborough hear that you want to make him a fullback, okay?
You think he's willing?
You know, he's probably willing to do whatever to make the team.
Right.
But this guy's got some talent, and I can see him playing a role on this team. Of course, you got Rod Smith also at running back, and then Tavon Austin enters the equation at the running back position. He kind of becomes that satellite back.
Yeah, and they needed some help at the running back position, as you said, some depth. With the fact that they only really had 2 guys. Trey Williams was a practice squad guy. They get Tavon Austin, kind of the toy they needed at that running back position, and now you've got a kind of a complete back that can carry the load for you.
All right, that's what we think of this draft class. What does the draft show think about it? That's coming up next on The Blitz. Can't wait to hear what Dave Hellman and Brian Broaddus have to say.
So we were waiting, and we were watching the clock, and of course it was the Cowboys pick, and we knew it. And so we knew there was interest and of course a desire to go there. And so it got to about 2 minutes, and so it got to the point where we were like, okay, they passed on us. Who's next? And at that time, I mean, I think Mom's going to the restroom. Everyone kind of got up from the table, and that phone rings with the 972 number, and we all look at each other like, no way. And I mean, it was insane. It was emotional, and it was a dream.
What an emotional moment at AT&T Stadium last week when Connor Williams, the Coppell Cowboy, got that call. Now a Dallas Cowboy. Welcome back here to the Blitz, your Dallas Cowboys report. Bill Jones, Mickey Spagnola, and for the final time during this draft season, we are joined by the draft show for a recap. Dave Hellman and Brian Broaddus.
Thanks, Bill. Well, you know, the beauty of covering the draft going all the way back to, December, is that we don't have to guess about how the Cowboys did. We've got a pretty good idea. We've got some stats to back it up. There's a guy sitting here next to me, Brian Broaddus. You watched 200 players, put them on your board in anticipation of this year's draft. I want to talk specifically Leighton Vander Esch, Connor Williams, Michael Gallup, Cowboys' first 3 picks. Stack these guys up for me.
Well, the way I had it stacked up is I had Connor Williams in my top 50. Connor Williams was number 27. Leighton Vander Esch was number 28. And then Gallup was 37. So if you look at the way, if I don't have to provide a grade to you on how they did, yeah, just look at your top 50. And if somebody drafts 3 players out of your top 50, you would probably consider that a pretty good draft.
I mean, in your history in scouting, that's pretty nice.
Either I know what I'm doing or they don't know what they're doing. We'll see how that all works out.
Hopefully it's the former.
Right, absolutely.
But I mean, you get a second-round pick who is rated higher than your first-round pick. I don't even view that as a knock on Leighton Vander Esch, just a compliment to Connor Williams.
Not at all. I think they were surprised that Connor Williams was there, to be honest with you. I think they had a much higher grade on him than a lot of people potentially had him as a guy who was going in the bottom of the first round. So to get him at 50 shows you a lot right there.
And then you hear from the front office during the post-draft presser, Michael Gallup is a guy they thought of taking at 50. So again, you're talking about getting good value later on than you probably would have expected.
Yeah, all second-round guys on my board as it shook out. So that's what the thing with Gallup that's interesting to me, David, and we talked about him a bunch, the route running ability. I think that's where people, when you watch him practice OTAs, mini camps, and then in training camp, you'll see what I'm talking about with that ability to separate.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, Cowboys added 9 players in the draft. We don't have to go through them all.
Right.
They were busy Saturday afternoon on day 3. But take me through a couple guys. I know one of them, the quarterback, Mike White, is a guy you love. Dorrance Armstrong's another one. Take me through these.
Yeah, with Dorrance Armstrong, it was interesting because they were trying to trade back into the draft. Yeah. We kind of thought, as we were running the draft, we thought they were going back for Moore, the safety, to various Moore. So they weren't. They were going back in for Armstrong. So
why do you think that is?
I think that they really, when you watch him play, this guy plays with some violence to him. I mean, he's a 250-pound guy, edge rusher, capture it, get around the corner, dip, all those things you want in an edge rusher, he can do. So don't let the school fool you. They had a little rough patch.
Talking trash about the Jayhawks?
Yeah, but people look at sometimes, how's he so good and he's on a bad team. But he was one of the better players, in the Big 12 when it came to defensive pass rush.
And talking about your board at the top of the segment, I'm pretty sure you had a 3rd-round grade on Mike White.
I did have 3rd-round grade. It's funny because Kellen Moore and I were talking about this even before when they started going to work guys out. I ran into him in lunch and I said, "You going to work out Mike White?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "You're going to like Mike White." So it turned out, though, the Cowboys were able to get him into the mix.
Cowboys had 10 picks. They used 9 of them. I think here at the draft show, we thought a pretty good weekend overall. Got a lot of good value. So we're going to be evaluating these guys going into OTAs, and then, hey, you'll see us in October, December as we start getting ready for another draft.
All right, Dave Hellman and Brian Broaddus, we have appreciated throughout the draft season. And the Blitz continues in a moment. The rookies will be here next week. Some key upcoming dates when we come back.
The Dallas Cowboys Blitz was brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world. The law offices of Domingo Garcia, the lawyer that works for justice. And by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. For the ultimate Dallas Cowboys experience, tour the Star in Frisco, where the Cowboys train and work. For more information, visit thestarinfrisco.com/tours.
Final couple of minutes here of the Blitz, your Dallas Cowboys report, and some important dates coming up this week. Now, the Cowboys will hold their rookie mini camp next weekend. We will actually be able to see rookies out on the practice field here at the Star next Friday, May 11th, and Saturday, May 12th. The organized team activities will get underway the week of May 22nd. They, of course, go for 3 weeks. And then the mandatory minicamp coming up in June 12th through the 14th. Those are the important dates coming up. And yes, I think we're ready for some football around here.
Yeah,
Ricky.
It's about time. And I think, unfortunately, though, that rookie minicamp this year, there's going to be more of a teaching session than anything else. I think they've learned, Bill, over the years. Bringing these guys in and wearing them out right at the beginning leads to some soft tissue injuries. So more of a teaching session to get these guys acclimated to what goes on around here.
Probably the prudent thing to do. We mentioned off the top of the show, or mentioned earlier in the show, about Tavon Austin, the trade that the Cowboys made last week. There was another trade, of course, that they made as well, as Ryan Switzer was dealt to the Oakland Raiders. And in return, a defensive tackle coming here who was a former second-round draft pick, Jihad Ward. You can add Jihad Ward to the Cowboys draft class.
Absolutely, and they needed another defensive tackle, another big body in the middle. You know, he kind of reminds me of David Irving, kind of a tall guy, about 290 pounds. And what Rod Marinelli likes about him, he's got that quick first step. He's a guy that can get up the field. Now, the Raiders had him playing a 3-4 defensive end, and he played a little heavy. The Cowboys are going to make him a 4-3 defensive tackle, probably that 3 technique. So it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to this. He was awfully good at the University of Illinois, so we'll see if he can kind of re-jump his career here.
All right, that does it for the Blitz, your Dallas Cowboys report.